She woke up, already wearing the dress. 5 in the morning, Christmas Day. Lyra Blackwood is 34, a senior brand director at a boutique luxury fragrance house in Manhattan. Black woman, honey golden skin, back straight even when no one is watching. On her mother's guest list, next to her name, there is a +0. Everyone else got a +1. She stares at the number for a long time. She does not cry. Down the hall, a man kneels once on cold marble. Kang Minjay, 36, head of the Kang Syndicate in Seoul. A black koi fish tattoo curls up the left side of his neck into the collar of a charcoal black 3-piece suit. He opens a small box, a platinum band, no stone, no engraving, no audience, no cameras. Just her name, said once, the way he always says it. She says yes. He slides the ring on. 2 years. That is how long she hid him from her family. 2 years of holidays alone, of jokes about the empty chair, of her Aunt Hattie counting her failures out loud like coins. She wanted to be sure. He used the same 2 years to read every file the Blackwoods had ever tried to bury. By afternoon, she is driving to her parents' house, alone. The ring is in her coat pocket. At the door, she says, quietly, that she brought a surprise. The laughter starts before she finishes the sentence. And then, on the other side of that door, before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Lyra was already dressed when the alarm would have gone off. 5 in the morning, and the emerald silk lay flat against her hips, as if it had never known a wrinkle. She stood at the tall bedroom window of the Kang mansion and looked at nothing in particular, because there was nothing in particular to look at yet. Snow, a driveway, the black gate at the end of it. Her phone rested face up on the marble sill. She opened her mother's last message again, the guest list for Christmas dinner, alphabetized, with a column for +1s. Her name sat near the top. The column beside it read, +0. Not TBD, not blank, a 0. Ruby had typed the 0. Lyra set the phone down. She adjusted the small pearl at her throat, once, so the chain sat flat against her collarbone. Her spine did not move. It had not moved in 4 hours. Behind her, the room was still dark. Minjay was not there. He had been up since 3. She had heard the door of his study close and open twice, and then the low murmur of Korean through the wall, one voice, then another, then his. She did not ask what the calls were about. In 2 years, she had learned that the calls were not the story. She poured coffee from the silver pot on the tray by the door. Black, no sugar. She held the cup with both hands and did not drink. In the reflection of the window, she watched her own mouth, the way it stayed neutral. Her mother would look at that mouth tonight and try to find a crack in it. She would not find one. The plan for the day was simple, the way she had rehearsed it in the shower the night before. She would drive to Brooklyn alone. She would ring her parents' bell at 4. She would sit through cocktails with Hattie and Delilah and the cousins, and she would eat Ruby's ham, and she would answer the questions about work and about the empty seat beside her, and she would not cry, and she would not leave early. That was the plan. 2 years of the same plan. She heard him before she saw him. His footsteps on the marble were unhurried, the way a man walks when he has already decided everything. Lyra did not turn. "You didn't sleep," Minjay said. "Neither did you." He crossed the room. In the window, she watched him come. The charcoal suit already knotted at the throat at 5 in the morning. The black koi curling up the left side of his neck into the collar. He stopped 1 step behind her. He did not touch her. "Put the cup down," he said. She put the cup down. He came around her and stood between her and the window. In his right hand was a small black box, matte, no logo. He did not open it yet. He looked at her the way he looked at a ledger, slowly, from the top. You were going to drive alone, he said. That was the plan. Change the plan. She did not answer. He knelt. Once. The knee met the marble without a sound, and he did not shift his weight to make it easier. He opened the box with his thumb. Inside sat a platinum band, unadorned, the width of a pencil line. No diamond, no cluster, just the metal, matte on the outside, mirrored on the inside where the engraving caught the lamp. I was going to do this at the tree, he said, in front of everyone. I thought about it for a month. I don't want an audience. Lyra's hand rose to her throat and stopped halfway. She let it fall. Ask me, she said. Marry me. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit as if it had been measured while she slept, which it had. He stayed on the one knee a second longer than he needed to, then stood, and only then did he touch her. One palm at the small of her back, brief, the way a man tests whether a door is really closed. You'll go to Brooklyn, he said. At 4, alone, as planned. And you? I'll come at 5. She understood then what the calls in the study had been. She did not ask. Down the hall a phone buzzed, and Seokjin's low voice picked up on the second ring. Minjay did not move his eyes from her face. He lifted her left hand and looked at the ring against her skin, and then he looked at her mouth again, and this time he found the crack. Small, at the corner. He pressed his thumb there once, gently, and it closed. Wear the coat, he said. The black wool, it'll be colder by 4. I know. He turned to leave. At the door he stopped without turning back. Lyra. Yes. They'll say what they always say. Let them. Then he was gone, and the study door closed again, and the low Korean started again through the wall, and Lyra stood alone at the window, with the platinum weight new on her hand. She looked down at the ring. She turned it a quarter turn with her thumb. She turned it back. Outside, the black gate opened for a delivery van and closed again. Snow had begun. Lyra picked up her phone and, without opening the thread, deleted her mother's guest list message. Then she went to get the coat. The coat was in the hall closet, folded over the arm of a chair Minjay had placed there for her the week she moved in. Lyra didn't put it on. She held it against her chest and stood in the doorway of the study, where the fire was still low from the night before. Minjay was already there, at the desk, one hand on a folder, the other on a phone she had never seen him use before. He looked up. He didn't ask what she was doing awake. Ash brings the car around at 10, he said. I know. You want me at 10:30. I want you at 10:30. He nodded once and went back to the folder. She watched him for a moment. 2 years of watching him had taught her the shape of that stillness. It was the stillness of a man who had already decided something and was giving the world a courtesy window to catch up. She set the coat on the arm of the leather chair and sat. You investigated them, she said. All of them. He closed the folder. Yes. When? The week you told me your sister's name. That was 22 months ago. Lyra let the number sit between them without saying it. Marcus, she said. The wire from the Singapore account nearly hit the SEC filter in March. Someone at his bank flagged it and then unflagged it. I know who unflagged it. Was it you? No. It was a favor owed to someone who owes me. Marcus doesn't know he was saved. He thinks he was lucky. Lyra pressed her palm flat against her thigh. The silk of the dress didn't move. Hattie. 2 affairs. One with a deacon at the church whose wife runs the committee she chairs. The other older, quieter, a man in Baltimore she visits, under the name of a cousin who died in 2019. Delilah. He paused. That pause was the first tell she had gotten from him in a month. Say it, she said. At the fragrance gala in October, she asked for my number through a mutual acquaintance. She didn't know who I was. She saw the suit and the watch and made a decision. I said no through the acquaintance. She never learned the no came from me. Lyra breathed out slowly through her nose. And my mother. Your mother reads the guest list out loud every Sunday to your aunt on the phone. She started reading your +1 as a 0 18 months ago. Hattie asked her to. Your mother agreed. She closed her eyes, not against the information. She had known each of those things in some smaller, cheaper shape for years. What closed her eyes was the fact that he had known them too, the whole time, and had never once used them to make her feel chosen. He had waited for her to choose. "Why didn't you tell me?" she said. "Because you weren't asking." She opened her eyes. "I hid you for 2 years. I know. I told you it was because I wasn't ready." "I know. That wasn't the whole truth. I know that too." She held his gaze. He didn't blink. "I wanted to see if you would stay," she said. "Without a table, without a family, without a reason to prove anything. I wanted to see if you were the kind of man who needed an audience. And you never asked once for a photograph together. You never asked for my mother's number. You never once used the word when about them. There was no when," he said. "There was you." She let the silence do its work. Outside, the snow had thickened. She could hear it against the study window, the small dry ticking of ice against glass. Minjay stood, crossed the room, and stopped in front of her chair. He didn't kneel this time. He set his hand on the arm of the chair, next to hers, close enough that she could feel the heat of his skin through the wool of his sleeve. "The ring is on your left hand," he said. "That is the only announcement I need to make today. Everything else at that house is your choice." "I know what I want," she said. "Tell me." "I want to walk in alone. I want them to have the full 30 minutes. I want my mother to serve the ham. I want Delilah to make the joke about my dress. I want Hattie to bless the food and mention the empty chair. And then I want the bell to ring." He looked at her for a long second. "Ash will drop you at 10:55, he said. "I ring at 11:25. 11:30. 11:30. Ash stays in the car. Ash stays in the car with the door open. That is not a compromise." She let it stand. She stood. She took the coat off the chair and put it on. He watched her button it, slowly, from the throat down. When she reached the last button, he lifted his hand and touched the pearl at her collar with one knuckle. "Do not defend yourself in there," he said. "Not once. Not one sentence." "I wasn't going to." "I know. I am telling you anyway." Ash was waiting at the front step at 10:50. The sedan was black and low and silent, engine running, exhaust curling white against the snow. He opened the rear door for her without a word. She slid in. The door closed with the soft, heavy sound of a vault. Through the tinted window, she saw Minjay standing at the top of the stairs, hands in the pockets of the charcoal overcoat, watching her go. He didn't wave. He didn't need to. The sedan pulled through the gate, 28 minutes to the Blackwood house. She rehearsed nothing on the drive. She had rehearsed enough for 2 years. Ruby opened the door with the ladle still in her hand and the apron already stained with clove. Her eyes went to Lyra's face first, then to her left hand, then away from her left hand as if the glance had been an accident. "You're early," Ruby said. "I brought a surprise," Lyra said, and stepped inside. Lyra did not turn around. She stood at the edge of the living room, with her back to the table, her hand still on the strap of the small black clutch she had not yet set down, and she listened. "A surprise," Hattie repeated. The word came out slow, savored. "Well, let's all pray it's not another certificate." Delilah laughed first. Ruby laughed second, softer, the way she always did when she wanted to say she wasn't laughing at her daughter. Marcus laughed into his glass. Naomi did not laugh, but Naomi did not stop it either. Walter cleared his throat and stayed silent. Lyra took one step toward the door and stopped. The tree lights blinked once behind her, red, then gold, then red. The doorbell had not rung yet. She had walked in 3 minutes ago and told them to wait. Minjay was still in the car at the curb. She had asked him for these 3 minutes. She had not told him why. "Lyra, honey," Ruby called from the table. Her voice was careful. "Come sit. Whatever it is can wait until after the ham." "It can't," Lyra said. Hattie lifted her wine. The gold rings on her fingers caught the light. "Oh, it can't. Listen to her. It can't." "Auntie," Delilah said, grinning. "Let her cook." "I am letting her cook," Hattie said. "I am also placing a bet." Marcus leaned forward. "What's the bet?" $20, Hattie said. "Says she paid some man to ring that bell." The table did not laugh right away. There was a half-second where nothing happened, where the ice in Naomi's glass shifted and the oven timer in the kitchen ticked, and then Delilah made the sound first. A short, surprised bark of a laugh, and then Marcus followed, and then Ruby, softer, ashamed of herself, and then Hattie, loudest, victorious. Lyra heard every voice. She did not turn. $20, Hattie said again, riding the wave. "An escort. It's Christmas Eve. They're cheaper on Christmas Eve. Everyone's home." "Hattie," Walter's voice, low. "Enough. Walter, it's a joke." "It's enough." But he did not stand up. He did not push his chair back. He only shifted the fork on his plate 1 inch to the left and set his hand down over it, and Lyra saw all of it in the reflection of the picture glass on the wall in front of her. She saw her father not standing up. She saw Ruby lower her eyes to the napkin in her lap. She saw Delilah still smiling. Lyra breathed in through her nose. She breathed out through her mouth. The emerald silk moved with her ribs. She could feel the ring on her left hand under the leather of her clutch. Platinum, smooth, no stone. She had put it on at 5:14 that morning. She had worn it under a driving glove all the way across the bridge. She had slid the glove off in the foyer of her mother's house 6 minutes ago, and no one had looked at her hands. No one ever looked at her hands. She took another step toward the door. "Where's she going?" Hattie's voice, lifting again, mock worried. "Lyra, baby, don't go get him yet. I haven't finished my drink." "Aunt Hattie," Naomi, quiet, stop. "I will not stop. I am the only one in this family who tells this child the truth. The rest of you coddle her. 34 years old. 34. Do you know what I had at 34? A husband. A house. 2 children. What does she have? A candle line. A fragrance house," Ruby said, almost inaudible. "A candle line," Hattie said. Lyra reached the entry. The door was 6 feet away. Her hand was steady on the clutch. She was counting, in her head, the way she counted through board pitches, the way she counted through her father's silences. 1, 2, 3. Behind her, Delilah leaned toward Marcus and said, not quietly enough, $10 says she opens that door, and it's a DoorDash. Marcus laughed. Something in Lyra's chest went very still, not broken, still. Like a room where the music has just stopped, and everyone is about to turn and see who walked in. She thought, and this was the thought she would remember later, in the car, with her forehead against Minjay's, she thought, they will never say a single one of these words in front of him, not one. And when they stop saying them tonight, they will pretend they never said them, and I will have to decide, tomorrow, whether I let them pretend. She put her hand on the doorknob. Lyra, Ruby, standing up now, finally. Baby, wait. Let me come with you. No, Mama. Lyra, no. The word came out flat, not cruel, just closed. Ruby stopped where she was, one hand on the back of her chair, the burgundy skirt catching on the wood. Hattie raised her glass toward the entryway in a slow, theatrical toast. By all means, introduce us. Lyra turned the knob. She did not open the door yet. She held it, 1 degree turned, and she looked back over her shoulder, not at Hattie, not at Delilah, not at her father. She looked at her mother, Ruby's face was gray under the makeup. "Mama," Lyra said, "sit down." Ruby sat down. Lyra opened the door. The porch light was on. The cold came in first, then the smell of leather and rain, and something clean and expensive that did not belong on this street. And then a shadow, tall and squared at the shoulders, stepped into the frame of the doorway, and behind him, at the curb, the black sedan waited with its rear door already open and a second man standing beside it, gloved hands folded. The laughter at the table did not stop all at once. It stopped in pieces. Delilah first, then Marcus, then Ruby. Hattie was still smiling when her fork slipped from her fingers and hit the plate. Minjay did not step into the room. He waited at the threshold, and the room came to him. He took Lyra's hand first, not her arm, not her waist, her hand. He lifted it to his mouth and pressed his lips to the ring he had put on her finger 4 hours earlier. The kiss was brief. It was witnessed. That was the entire point. "I came to collect my wife," he said. The words were quiet. They did not need to be loud. Behind him, through the open door, the black sedan idled at the curb, and Seokjin stood at the rear passenger door with his gloved hand resting on the frame. The amber porch light caught the koi tattoo climbing his neck. Hattie's fork was still on the plate where it had fallen. She had not picked it up. Her mouth was open around a word she had chosen not to finish. Delilah recognized him first. Her hand went to her throat, to the oversized gold chain, and stayed there. "The gala," she said. It came out flat. "October," Minjay said, without looking at her. "You asked me for my card. I gave you a business card that led nowhere. You never noticed." Delilah's hand slid down from the chain to the table. Marcus had not spoken. He was staring at the shoes, then the coat, then the face. His finance associate brain was doing the arithmetic, and the answer kept coming back, Kang. He put his palms flat on the tablecloth like a man steadying himself on a rail. Walter half rose from the head of the table. The chair scraped. He did not know yet what he was rising to do. "Sit down, Mr. Blackwood," Minjay said. His tone did not lift. "You were going to ask me what I do for a living. I'll save you the sentence. I run a private bank in Seoul. Your nephew already knows which one." Marcus made a sound that was not a word. Walter sat. Ruby's hands were folded in her lap under the tablecloth. The Christmas apron was still tied at her waist. She was looking at her daughter, not at the man in the doorway. She was looking at Lyra's face, and Lyra's face was calm, and Ruby was seeing for the first time that her daughter had been calm for a very long time, and no one at this table had bothered to notice. Minjay's eyes moved to Hattie. He did not raise his voice. He walked 3 steps into the dining room, and every eye tracked him. "I stood on the porch for 40 seconds before I rang," he said. "The door is thin. I heard the joke about the escort. I heard the joke about the pity date. I heard you tell your niece that no man was coming." Hattie's red-painted mouth moved. Nothing came out. "I want you to understand something, Mrs. Blackwood Reeves." He used her full married name, the one she signed on the church committee ledgers. No man in this room would ever have been enough for her, not one. That was never her problem. It has always been yours. The gold cross on Hattie's chest rose and fell too fast. Naomi had not moved since he entered. Her wide, watchful eyes were doing what they had always done at this table, recording. But now, she was recording the other side. Minjay turned his shoulder to Hattie, which was a dismissal more brutal than any sentence, and looked at Lyra. "Are you finished here?" Lyra had not sat back down. She had not needed to. Her spine was the same straight line it had been at 5 that morning in the marble bathroom, in the emerald dress, staring at the guest list with a +0 next to her name. The dress was the same. The posture was the same. The only thing that had changed was that she was no longer alone in the frame. "I'm finished," she said. She stepped away from her chair. She did not look at her mother. She did not look at her father. She did not look at Hattie. She walked the length of the table and took the arm Minjay offered. At the door, she stopped once. She turned her head halfway, not enough to face them, just enough for her voice to carry back. The wedding is in April. Don't wait for an invitation. Then she walked out. Seokjin already had the rear door open. The interior of the sedan was warm and quiet, and smelled faintly of leather and cold air off the coats. Minjay let Lyra slide in first, then followed. The door closed with a sound the dining room did not hear because the dining room was still not breathing. The car pulled away from the curb. Through the window, the porch light shrank and vanished. Lyra let her shoulders down for the first time in 18 hours. It was not a collapse. It was a release. Minjay did not reach for her. He waited. He had learned in 2 years of a hidden courtship that she liked to come to touch on her own terms. She turned her face to him in the dim interior. The platinum ring on her hand caught a passing streetlight. "You heard all of it," she said. "It was not a question. I heard all of it. You didn't have to say any of that. I said the smallest part I could." She was quiet. The city slid past outside. Then she leaned in, and she pressed her forehead to his, and she closed her eyes. "You didn't have to prove anything to them," he said, low, into the space between them. "You already proved everything to me." Her breath went out slowly. His hand found the back of her neck and stayed there. Outside, snow had started. Seokjin drove without speaking. In the rearview mirror, the Blackwood house shrank to a lit square and then to nothing. Lyra did not look back. She had already been seen. If you want to watch all the stories without any ads and also get access to bonus scenes, extended epilogues, and exclusive spicy chapters, head over to our Patreon. Scan the QR code on the screen. The link is in the description or in the pinned comment. See you there. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever sat quietly at a table where the people who share your blood counted your worth by the chair beside you? Have you ever loved someone in silence for years, protecting what was real from mouths that only knew how to mock? What would you have said at that door if the man who chose you had spoken first? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, silent loyalty, and quiet power, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.